What's up, Tool Coast fans? We are live Tuesday morning. How's everybody doing today? Russ, how you
We are
feeling?
live. We're live. We're live. We're living.
We're live. We're living. Going on over there. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Hey, what are you drinking right there?
I got my iced coffee next to my hot coffee.
Okay.
Because I was undecided this morning. What to indulge in as a beverage.
So are you going back and forth from the cup to the coffee mug?
I actually am.
Okay.
I don't know if that's wise or unwise. And considering our daily habits discussion today, I'm not sure if this is a good daily habit or a bad daily habit.
You're doing an internal cold plunge followed by the sauna.
I'm doing internal cold plunge followed by the sauna. This is a trial run for those listening.
He's hooked up. He's hooked up medically. He's got the screen in the background doing all his digital. Yeah.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
All the statistics are coming up.
The stats and the analytics on cold coffee versus hot coffee.
Oh man, that's funny.
What's going on over there, man?
Well, it is dark outside. It is gray. It is foggy. It's not cold. One of the things that I love to do right out of the gate, as soon as I wake up, before I do anything, is open the front door. I like to hear the ocean waves, which are about 100 plus feet away, and hear that, smell it, feel it, it's a beautiful way to start the day and just feeling the air. But I stepped out today and I was just like, wow, it's very, very mild. So it'll eventually clear. Like yesterday, it'll be a beautiful day. Yesterday was a little breezy, but feeling good, man. Feeling good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So we got a good discussion today, guys, about daily habits and non-negotiables, something that is near and dear to me and Russ's heart, I guess we'd say. And, I feel like it's hard for a lot of people to stay with daily habits and hard to stay with those non-negotiables because a lot of things get in the way. Life gets in the way, work gets in the way, different issues arise. And I think that's something that people have to try to compensate for and try to get out there and really complete the task at hand and try to put those things to the side. Now, I'm guilty myself of letting daily habits go sometimes, and I try to get myself back into the role if I can, best I can, or I change them to make them more adaptable to me. Russ, what do you think about that? Like sometimes you have to adapt a little bit to you and maybe change the daily habits and maybe make them a little bit more accessible or to achieve success out of them.
Absolutely. We go through waves in life, right? We go through ups, we go through downs, we get, different things that come into our life, different people come in our life, family, events, summer, winter, fall, spring, it just depends, the time of the year. And, like in your neck of the woods, when it gets to wintertime and it's freezing cold and not even that long ago, you guys had like 2 weeks of rain, right? So if you're an outdoor person and you like to start your day doing that, but it's dumping rain, then maybe you're adjusting a little bit for that day. Maybe you're going to jump on a, indoor bike. Maybe you're going to, do something calisthenic wise in the morning rather than going out and doing a walk. So we're always having to adapt what we're doing. For me, I like to ride a Peloton, but it's 2 doors over in my neighbor's garage and it's connected to their Wi-Fi, which is 2 floors up. So sometimes I will go over there and I don't get that connection. So I have to adjust my workout for that day and do something different, right?
Yeah.
So our habits are all about adjustment. We try to do what we do. Surfers can't surf all the time. Sometimes it looks like a lake, right? So it's just it's our habits sometimes have to adjust. Just like you had to adjust this morning. You maybe wanted hot coffee, but you really wanted cold coffee. So what did you do? You adjusted and you got both.
I got both. I don't know if that was a good adjustment or not.
We're gonna find out. We'll check in with Dan. We'll check in with Dan in about 2 hours. See how he's feeling.
This is a pure hypothesis.
He might be like vibrating off of the wall.
Exactly. But it's funny, like you just said, and I always make this joke about the weather because the weather in the Northeast, you have to adapt a bit because you get all 4 seasons. So in the wintertime, you can't do the daily habits that maybe you had in the summertime. I could easily go step outside. It's 80 degrees right now on Long Island, very easily. But in the wintertime, it could be -5, or 0 or whatever it may be with the wind chill and everything. So I'm not going to go step outside most likely and do what I'm going to do. As you know, I like to go for a walk sometimes as soon as I get up, stuff like that. I'm going to have to change those habits.
Yes.
And I still try to go outside before I look at my phone and stuff like that, no matter what. But I feel like you have to alter your idea. You have to change in some way, shape, or form, adapt the workouts, adapt the idea of going outside. And I always make the joke that, if I lived in California or I lived in Florida or something like that, my daily habits would be different. That's actually probably true.
It is.
Because, in Florida or California or something like that, it could be 68, it could be 70 degrees, right? Every day, sunny type of thing. And I would do stuff differently. But you kind of have to adapt to your settings, your surroundings, your work schedule, things like that, and make it more accessible to you. Because if you don't do that, I think you're only going to work against yourself. You're going to make things that are unachievable. You're not going to complete them as much, and you're only going to regress.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. You have to make it.
We have a friend that lives in the Northeast, and every winter the name eludes me. But he goes through that mental struggle where
Seasonal depression type thing.
It's what?
Like seasonal depression. Is that what you're saying?
Seasonal depression. Okay. Yeah. So people that live in those areas, when I was in Pittsburgh and it's basically -7 wind chill.
Yeah.
I was one of few that I would see on the streets. Right. So you have to adapt. It's not always like that, but there are seasons where we have to adjust.
Yeah.
So where you live and the seasons and the temperature, all of that we have to adjust in our schedules. But the most important thing is to not do nothing.
That's the most important thing. I agree with that 100%. And just for me, I like to do a few things. One thing I like to do is not look at my phone right away. So when I get up, I don't grab the phone right away. I try to do a couple of air squats, a couple of push-ups. I like to do movement before I do anything. And I think that puts you in a good mindset as opposed to, grabbing the phone, getting that blue light right away. I think that kind of puts you in a bad setting, so to speak. I think you should be getting up, doing a little bit of movement, maybe walking around the house for a few minutes, doing a couple of air squats, stretch, decompress for a few minutes, meditate, something along those lines before you jump into that mindset of, okay, I got to grab the phone. I got to check my email. I got to look at my text messages. I think if you do that, I think you set yourself up for a little bit of failure, so to speak, because then you try to get the movement. And after that, now your mind is focused on the phone. You're focused on the email. You're focused on that task at hand. You're better off focusing on the first task of trying to get some movement in, focus on the stretching, the breathing, the meditation, the affirmations. Sometimes a lot of people are big into affirmations. And, that's something I'm going to try to get myself into a little bit also after our discussion last week with Lancelot on Dual Coast. He's big with affirmations when he first gets up. So, I think I'm going to try to get myself into that role a little bit more. But I think that's a great habit to get into, is not looking at the phone right away, getting a little bit of movement in some way, shape, or form, whether it's stretching, decompressing, affirmations, a little bit of that. And you could do it simultaneously too. I think you could stretch on the floor and say affirmations simultaneously, or do some air squats and say affirmations simultaneously, So
I think you need to start with 4 a.m. with Lancelot. You guys live in the same neck of the woods.
Yeah.
You guys could get on, jump on a call and affirm each other at 4 a.m.
Well,
you just got to start earlier. That's all it is, Dan.
little FaceTime session with Lancelot at 3:30, air squatting and doing affirmations. But
he's already put in a full day.
It's funny you just said that, because I've read a lot of people, entrepreneurs, business people, personal development people. They do say that they wake up at the very early hours because it creates way more daylight for them, or way more daytime for them, because they could break up the day into different sections. And Ed Milet's a big advocate for this. And who Ed Milet is. He says that his day starts at this time. He has a full day from 6 to 12, and then from 12 to 6, and then another full day from 6 to 12. Like, he breaks his day up. He's like, and now I always beat you in that regard, is what he says, because he creates more daytime for himself.
Yeah.
A lot of successful people
so true.
do wake up very early. I'm up very early to go to work, yes, but a lot of people wake up even earlier than me at 3 o'clock in the morning, start getting their tasks done. Because imagine if you woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, did all your daily affirmations, you got some movement in, you worked out, you answered some emails and everything like that. Now it's 6 a.m. or 5:30 in the morning, and you still have the entire day to complete task.
You're ready to eat lunch.
Yeah, most people don't start that until 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, by the time
Right.
they're done with that, it's noon. Now you're
Yes.
ahead of the game if it's 6 a.m. and you accomplished all those things. It's an interesting habit to develop. It's something that I would try to work into my routine somewhere down the line, but definitely difficult. There's no way that that's not a difficult task to complete.
Yeah.
You know,
Movement is not in my nature as far as like exercising first thing in the morning, once in a while stretch,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I'm just not a morning workout person. Now, when I say workout, that means going into the garage, riding the Peloton, doing some band work, doing some jump rope. I do that in the middle of the afternoon.
Sure.
So anywhere from 3 to 5.
Yeah.
But for me, oftentimes I'll take a walk in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'll make some coffee, have a little bit of coffee and some water, and then I'll head out the door.
Yeah.
And so get a good walk in, which I will do right after we're done with this talk today, because it's going to be 6 a.m. So I would love to I will get out and do that. So I try to do that at least probably 3 times a week, to be honest, to get out and just to have a morning walk. I do it on Wednesdays with Kate, because we do a walk and talk on health and wellness.
Yeah.
But it's something that just kind of really rejuvenates, and really just after sleeping all night, getting up, feeling fresh air, and getting moving. Now, in your neck of the woods, it can be stifling hot. So doing a morning walk at 5:30, 6 a.m. is the right time to do it. Because it's not nearly as hot and the sun's not beating down on you. So that's a great time to do it, or late in the evening. But I like to movement is a big part of my day. You and I were talking off air on the way, before this, is that look, when last week I spent like 30 hours on the beach, and in about 4.5 days, and a lot of that was filled with smash ball, volleyball with friends. So we're just it's highly competitive. So getting a great workout, which ultimately led me to a little bit longer sleep. My body was craving it. And so, we talk about movement, that's important in our daily regimen, but it's also sleep is a huge proponent for us, to live healthy lives.
Yeah. Recover. Yeah. Recovery is a huge thing too. And, we had an episode actually about red light therapy, ice baths, and things like that. And recovery is a huge thing, regulating your circadian rhythm, sleeping correctly, things like that. People overlook sleep. The hustle culture has this whole idea is that you should lose sleep. You shouldn't be sleeping. You should be working as hard as you can all the time. And that's great if you want to really work hard and you don't want to go to sleep and you really want to try to achieve success. But simultaneously, I think you're actually hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself.
Yeah.
And we were actually at a conference where one of the employees or one of the colleagues of Deepak Chopra was there, and he said that losing sleep will actually have a negative effect on your work capabilities. In my opinion, and I totally agree with that, is that you need some sort of recovery. You have to recover, whether it's mentally and physically. In my opinion, you have to recover both. Sleeping helps that. I understand that, but you need some sort of decompression too mentally from the day, from the tasks, from the stress. You need to decompress in some way, shape, or form, whether it's prayer, meditation, something like that. I think you need to rest in both realms, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, well, you had talked about trying to put down the phone an hour before sleep.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever you do with that hour is considered rest. It may not be sleep,
Doesn't mean
but it's rest, right? And maybe doing some deep breathing at that time, whatever it may be that you can integrate into your life for that last hour before you actually knock out, or maybe you knock out before that. But a lot of high-end people, highly successful people, sleep 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
There are also highly successful people that sleep 8 hours. Right. So, it's highly recommended we get 7 to 9 hours. I'm usually like a 6.5, but lately 7. It's our body needs to recover and restore. And just yesterday, we talk about in a part of this conversation is hydration, right?
Yeah.
If we're already feeling like, we need water, then we're actually dehydrated. We have to stay hydrated in advance. So our coach in college, when we were in baseball and stuff like that, he knew like we're going to go play Arizona State. So he's like, guys, we're hydrating a week before. You're not hydrating the day of. It's too late.
Yeah.
You've got to drink a lot of water. Well, I used to have a 64 ounce. I lost it. I have a 32 ounce, but oftentimes when I go to the beach, I end up coming back to the house several times to fill that thing back up. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why don't I buy just a bigger jug? So yesterday, Amazon delivered a 120 ounce
I saw.
water jug, baby.
I saw.
I mean, this thing is beefy. I'm going to be filling it up today. It's probably dead weight. I could do some curls. I don't, you know what I mean? I could go hiking on it. It's probably 10-pound pack on my back, but
There you go.
it's a massive water jug. And, but it's great because I'm going to be, I'm going to have that water. I'll take it in my truck. I'll carry it with me all the time. I'll take it to the beach and just more water, more water. We all need that to stay hydrated throughout the day
That's
and
definitely
flush our system.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's definitely something that a lot of people lack is the hydration. I think that's something that actually calms you down, wakes you up simultaneously. And I think a lot of people lack the hydration aspect of life. You're busy at work, you're busy completing tasks, you're busy doing different things. You don't stop to think about drinking water. It's most people. And I'm one of the first people to be guilty of this also, is that I grab a coffee very often, as opposed to grabbing water. I should be grabbing water much more. I've actually changed the habit over the last like 6-8 months type of thing. But grabbing a coffee was a lot easier to me. The taste was better. I'm trying to wake myself up, but realistically, you should be drinking water in order to wake up.
Yes.
Hydration will help you in that regard. And I remember I had a college professor that was a bio nutrition class. And I don't know if I told the story, but it was late at night one night in a class. It was about 8 o'clock at night when I was an undergrad, and everybody, was sipping on coffee, trying to stay awake and everything like that. And he's like, you're all asleep. So everybody's like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, but you're all drinking the wrong thing. He's like, everybody I look at has a coffee in their hand across this whole classroom because everybody's trying to stay awake. He goes, you all should have a water in your hand.
Yeah.
He goes, you all need to hydrate more in order to stay awake. And that always stuck with me, honestly. I could see myself sitting in that classroom right now too. And he's absolutely right. I think from that regard of, feeling better, staying awake, achieving tasks, I think hydration is a huge key to success. And I think it's overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah, I have a buddy. He's not an athlete or anything, but he before he goes to work, he works at a grocery store, so he's indoors. He's putting in a lot of mileage on his feet, but he starts with 2 8-ounce glasses of water every morning before he goes to work.
Yeah.
So hydration is huge, and we just I read all the time that we need to, whatever our body weight is, we need to have half of that in ounces of water. So if you're weighing in at 200 pounds, you need 100 ounces of water daily, in our system to stay hydrated, to flush our system, to detox, and because of all the things that we're putting in our body. And so this is a way for us to flush our system. So I totally agree with water. My water intake goes up and down. Sometimes I'm drinking lighter, sometimes I'm drinking heavier. But it's I think if I was working in an office, it would be a lot harder for me to drink water. It's just something that's like I need some taste. Now there's some additives that we can put in there, that we can help it to give it a little taste or whatever. But it's the most important thing is that we're drinking water daily. So think about that. Whatever your weight is, think about cutting that in half and looking at the ounces of what you need to be drinking in water every day.
For sure. Yeah, and just stepping away from, let's say, the science of things and the hydration and all that stuff. One thing I also like to do that I try to complete is just I try to give myself a steadfast rule of do one hard thing a day. So I try to complete one task, whether it's physically or mentally challenging every single day.
Like hanging a picture on the wall?
Like hanging a picture on the wall, something like that. But I think you truly should try to do one thing. And I used to always have this saying written down in one of the books that sits on my nightstand, is that you should do one thing every single day that scares you. Mm. So to me, that's something that's physically or mentally challenging to you. One thing every single day. It doesn't have to be obscure. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but one thing that is out of the realm to you or challenges you in some way, shape, or form. whatever that may be.
Yeah.
It could be an ice bath. It could be a hard workout. It could be something, let's say even for some people, maybe even it's reading something because that's challenging to them because they don't read at all. And not that that needs to scare you in any way, but something that's challenging, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta try to do this today, complete this task. Doesn't have to be physical, doesn't have to be anything, like that, but something that challenges you in some way, shape, or form. Doing jumping jacks, regular workout, anything like that. Ice bath, something that's different to you that you don't complete in your daily task every single day. Put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, get uncomfortable, do the best you can with it, and see where it goes. See
Yeah.
how you can achieve from that. And from there, you could propel yourself. You could do something that challenges you here, day one, and say, by day 5, day 6, wow, this is easy to me. I need something more challenging. What can I do bigger? What can I do greater? How can I achieve more?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to start is do something that challenges you or scares you, as I like to say, every single day.
Mm. Good thoughts, man. I like that. My mind was kind of churning. Like, okay, what would that be in my life? Like, what
Yeah.
difficult thing like that? I mean, is it something physical? Does it have to be physical? Can it be just something like sometimes paying bills is scary to people, right?
Yeah.
Or it could be anything like that. But
Every day.
I think on the physical side, that's where we need to focus on is like
100%.
what is challenging to us, right?
Mentally
Maybe the
or
challenge
physically.
is maybe
Yeah.
the challenge is just getting up. If you're used to getting up at 6 a.m., get up at 5:45 a.m. That may be the difficult task of the day.
Yeah.
Getting up 15 minutes earlier than normal
Sure.
and doing something that's challenging
Yeah.
that you don't normally do.
Yeah.
So we don't have to wake up an hour earlier, but think about 15 minutes, 20 minutes each day, set the alarm a little bit earlier and do something, stretch a little bit,
Yeah.
just meditate in the morning to get your mindset set for the day.
Yeah.
That may be challenging, right? That may be a difficult task for people. So
Sure.
setting your alarm 15 minutes may be the task that you need to overcome and start doing it right away.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think just in general, forming daily habits sets you up for success.
Yeah.
It challenges you in some way, shape, or form. It gets you motivated. It gives you a task at hand to complete. And from there, I think, like I always say this, you could propel from there. You could complete the daily task and then do better in life. You could thrive a little bit better when you have this in this mindset of achieving.
Yeah.
I get up early, I do this, I get this done. Now I'm set up for success. What's my next task at hand? How do I achieve it? How do I beat it? How do I have more success out of it?
Yeah.
And I think you could just kind of keep building that pillar day by day by day and just keep going and going and going. And like I said before too, you have to shut down at some time. You can't just
Yeah.
keep going task for task for task for task. You're never gonna progress. You have to be able to shut it down in some way, shape, or form. Relax at the end of the day. I'm not a big advocate for scrolling the phone, but scroll the phone, for a little bit. Just decompress your mind. But like meditation and things like that, forming better daily habits will set you up for greater success. And I said this quote to Russ before, and it's your habits are either an anchor or a leak, and you have to pick one. And I think that's an excellent quote for achieving daily success. Something like that should stick in your mind. And do my habits weigh me down, or do my habits help me achieve? And that's how I'm starting to look at things in myself, in my own light. My daily habit, is my daily habit helping me achieve more? Is my daily habit weighing me down? What's
Yeah.
what's the outcome?
Yeah.
And that's something you really have to ask yourself, I think, on a daily basis when you wake up. Is my daily habit right now helping me achieve success, or is it helping me regress and not propel myself in life?
Yeah, I love that. I love that to close out our topic today.
Yeah,
That's a great question. Are we way down or are we launching? Because if it's an anchor in our life, then we got to find a way to unanchor it, and get that thing back in the boat so that we can keep moving in whatever capacity that is to help us in our daily habits. Right? We don't want to be an anchor. We don't want something that's holding us back from achieving what we want to achieve in life.
agreed. 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 Yeah, guys, I think we're going to land the plane with that. great session, guys. Hope you learned a lot from today. Daily habits, non-negotiables. Bring yourself up to, completing a task every single day, and then start with one task and then go from there and develop that habit. Do something every day that scares you, as I like to say. Build a challenge, complete the challenge, and go from there. And, hope you guys enjoyed today's session. Guys, please check us out on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to our channel. It was a great session, guys. We're going to see you guys next week. We have a very special guest, Dan Guerra, who's going to come on, talk to us about a multitude of things. Hope you guys could join us next week, and thank you for listening.
Progress. Wellness is not perfection. It's about progress.
There we go. Beautiful. Ross, you have your bracelet on? I don't have my bracelet on.
Oh,
wellness.
It's under there somewhere.
Wellness is
light blue. Right, light blue.
Wellness is not about perfection, but progress, guys. Progress every single day. We'll see you guys next week.